Hi, crafty friends. Sandi MacIver here. Welcome back. This is felt tube number 5, and we are continuing on with Fergus the Gnome, and we are at the embellishment stage. So here are the 2 die sets that I created for the embellishments. We're going to play with a few different pieces from them today. As you can see, I've been busy cutting out. This is the color scheme I decided on. For my summer Fergus. That's what I'm calling him, my summer Fergus. I like this combination of colors, and it goes really well with the blue that we were using for his coat and his hat, and also the light blue for his body, for that matter. So flowers out of these and this yellow. The yellow is also the center for quite a few flowers, as is the green, and obviously the green is going to be for quite a few of the leaves. So I'm just going to set those aside for a second, and we're going to come in, and I used quite a few of the fall dies. So I've got this here as a color guide. I'm just going to move this out of the way for a minute. The 2 flowers that we talked about earlier, I used both sides of those, and they're on this die. And then for the center of the larger flower, I used the small button. For the center of this small flower, I used one of these little squares. Okay. And then for the leaves, I used the leaves for the top of the pumpkin. If you wanted to, you could also use this leaf here, and it has stitching holes. So you could also put a stitch through it. And so that adds another element to the finishing of the gnomes. And as you can see, let me see what I can show you. When you go and do a little stitch, it just adds a little bit more detail. So we're going to get into that. What else can I tell you? What else did I use? I think that's about it. Anyway, I went back and forth with the colors, and I think that, this die goes back over here with the winter Christmas. Okay, so moving the dies out of the way for just a minute, I'm going to explain a little bit of cutting and how to maximize cutting all of these little pieces. And as you can see, there are quite a few of them. So what I do is I cut strips from the felt, and I line them up like this. And you can get 3 or 4 if you've got a couple of different colors and you're looking at using a few different dies. You can also put 2 shorter pieces together. Okay, and at some point when I only had a couple of these, I was also running through the skeleton because I'm working on a Day of the Dead gnome. I'm just grabbing part of him here. Okay. So this will be finished by the time everything goes live. I think this is going to be really, really cute. My Day of the Dead gnome. All right, so I'm getting off track here. Anyway, you can use the die repeatedly. I make this wide enough that I can go 2 all the way up. With the leaves, this one got a little bit wider. I was able to go 3 across. And what you do with those is just I know there's a stem on this die. Okay, so there's a little stem here. What I do after I cut the first one is I just overlap it because I don't care if the stem cuts out that piece that I've already used. But I'm maximizing my felt. Okay, and this is why we keep all of the little pieces as well. Because you can take a little piece like this, and you can get 4 or 5 flowers out of this. You could also get a couple of leaves out of this, right down to the itty bitty flower centers. So save these, they come in very handy. Okay, so let's get on to the stitching. So during the die cutting, what I did was I had the pieces with me, and as I die cut, I laid them down onto these surfaces. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to move these trays back and forth so that we can get up close and personal with these. Okay, so here's the coat. I'll move the hat out of the way. I lined them up so that I could see where I actually wanted to put them. And then I didn't want to turn this over because I didn't want to disrupt what I had going on, because those are not glued down yet. I'm going to show you how to glue them down. So on this second tray, what I did was I laid out what I want for the back of the coat. And so this is all here. And this is for a separate little project I'm going to show you at the end. So what did you do? And I'm going to bring this back in. Okay. I'm using the same brown thread that I used for the trim on the hat and the coat. Okay, and that was 3031, I think. We're going to tie a knot in the end of our thread. And then for the large flowers, as I said, I used the button die. And so you want to take your needle. I'm trying to get the camera to focus. There we go. And you want to pop out the two little holes that are in there, or at least pop them out enough so that you can see them. And then you're going to put the button into the center of the flower. Okay. You're going to come up through one of the holes, and you're going to go down into the second hole, just like that. Turn it over, and you want to run your needle through this knot, and then just tie off. And I only do one because we're going to glue this down, so the glue is going to cover the knot. And I'm also going to cut the tail off because you don't want any tail showing when we go to do our little guy. So for the little tiny ones, you're basically going to do the same thing. However, there are no holes. So you just kind of have to guess. And it's not that difficult. I do get some of them off center, but not by a lot. So again, knotted thread, and you're just going to come up on one side of the square. Took out my fingernail on that one. Okay, and then try and keep it square on the flower. You're going to go back down, and you're going to do exactly the same thing. Run through the knot on the back, or just under it, and split the threads, one of the two. Having a hard time doing this. Okay. And then pop it through, tie it off, snip real close. This is when it comes in handy to have a good pair of scissors that are sharp right to the very end. Okay, so you're going to do that with all of them. And then what you want to do is you're going to take your glue and you're going to glue them. Now, I've already glued this just to cut down on time for the camera. I've got a couple of loose ones here. I haven't really decided. So back when we were talking about the hat, and if you happen to pull your stitches a little bit too much and you have stitches showing, this is the perfect opportunity to embellish. So you're going to embellish up and around. I like to do a lot on the back because you don't get to see a lot of the back in some situations, but if they're in a tiered tray, you do. And so I always like to make the back pretty. And we're going to do the back of the coat as well. And you're going to see how nicely these go together. You may notice also that I have kind of a big gap here. That is on purpose. We're going to build a pin that's going to go through the hat into the top of the body to secure it in place. And I'm going to decorate it with a couple of the flowers. Okay. So first things first, we're going to glue. So I got these little guys. You can use your tweezers if you want. Up to you. Something pokey is also a good idea. Okay, so I like the tip on my embellishment wand, so either one of these work. So I like to do this one at a time, and the one thing I tell you, or want to tell you, is be careful, because if you push down too hard on these, the glue is going to go all the way through and you're not going to be able to open your coat. So a solution to that problem is this. This is a quarter sheet of cardstock, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I am going to take this and I'm going to slide it up inside of the coat. And then because these are both basically the same, I'm going to take these off and I'm going to lay them over here in the pattern that I want to put on my coat. And then that way I still have a visual over here. Okay, so we've already discussed in a couple of previous videos my favorite glue for this, which is Adina Wakley, the media glue. The Barely Art glue also works. They both have a nice fine tip, which is pretty handy. So you're just going to take these little guys. You're going to add a big blob of glue to the back of them. And you're going to push it down. And you're going to do the same thing with the leaves. The big gob on the back. And then there. Okay, this is a matte finish, so it also dries quite clear. So if you get a big gob somewhere, don't worry about it. If it's huge, try picking it up with your tweezers. Otherwise, meh, no big deal. Okay, so I think that flower is going to go there. So then that leaf can go there, I think. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to glue that one down. Then I'm going to overlap this one just a tiny little bit. A little bit of overlapping on some of the leaves, I think, really or flowers really does add some interest. I also want to move this down a little bit. It ended up being a little bit high. I'm going to add my third flower before I go back and do the leaves. There's a big fluff in there. Okay, so coming in with this one, and going to put a green leaf here. If you know exactly where you want it to go, you can add the glue actually to the coat instead of the leaf. I'm going to tuck that just underneath. And I've got one more leaf. I think I'm going to stick it here. And I might steal a leaf from something else. I always cut a few extras just in case. As you start putting these together, sometimes you find some little holes in your decorating. And this is a great opportunity to figure that out and add some additions. Okay, so I'm going to add that one there. And this one is going to go here. Now, you may be wondering why I'm staying so low on the coat. It's because his beard covers all of this, so you don't need to decorate up there. Another thing I thought of when I was working on this, actually on the Day of the Dead one, I thought it might be kind of cool to do this and add a bunch of these around the wrist on the coat or the cuff. But we'll save that for another day because I didn't cut enough of them. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to pull all of this off. And now I've got this one to refer to. So starting with the big flower, I'm going to add it there. I got the one leaf to go above and pointing a little bit to the center. Okay, I'm going to put this flap over top of this one. There we go. I'm going to turn that flower a little bit so that this leaf goes in where I want it to. And I like things matchy-matchy. You don't have to. You can abstract yours if you want. Putting my pink flower over top. And then I've got my coral-colored flower as my third element as I work my way down. Okay. I'm going to put this leaf in here. Now that's the drawback to going on to. Okay, so very quickly, because this glue hasn't dried yet, you can pop this up and pop that underneath, and that will cover up that little blob of glue that we got going on there. And I'm going to turn this flower a little bit to cover that little blob of glue. There we go. All right, so we got a couple of leaves left to go here. Back on this one, and I'm going to pop this down in the corner. Okay. And then we want this one going this way. And one final one. Where am I going to steal it from? I'm going to take this one. All right. Going this way. Now, isn't that pretty? I really like the addition of the stitches because I think it melds these together and it adds more interest to the flowers. They're not just, two colors just kind of hanging out there. Now, this is not dry by any stretch of the imagination, but because we've got the cardboard in here, we can very carefully pick this up and we can turn it over. And so then we're going to come in and we're going to decorate. Look at a big fluffy there. I don't know what that's from. Probably the stuffing that went into the body. All right, get rid of that. We've got a selection that we're going to put on the back, and then we're going to come along with some leaves and do a little bit of fill-in. So you want to spread your flowers around, especially the colors, and incorporate the green for the leaves. I'm going to sneak a leaf right in there. And probably another one there, so we'll turn that one up a little bit. We've got this one out the end. Move these in a little bit closer. Okay. And then another one there. And I'm going to see how I do once I get this all glued down. I'm going to start from here. So again, adding glue as we go. Okay, that one's going to come up from the yellow one. This is the pink one. And if you're a little concerned about these sticking or not, once you've got everything glued down, you can grab a couple of your acrylic stamp handles and pop this on top just for some weight, and then let it dry for about half an hour before you start fussing with it too much. Okay. I'm going to lift that ever so gently and stick that one in there. Okay, I like that so far. That one. And that one. Okay, I'm going to start in the middle on this one and then work my way out. And then that way I should be able to evenly balance them. I'm going to overlap that flower with the leaf a little bit. Okay. I kind of like them lined up like that. I'm going to add that one. And then the little pink guy. Okay. And then a leaf on this side. And finally, a leaf on this side. Oops, and I got a goop. Let me just pick that up with my fingernail. Okay. So I have a couple of really large acrylic handles. I am going to lay them on top of this. And we are going to push this out of the way. And I'm going to show you how to do the pin for the hat. Okay, so the pin is going to be two-sided. So you need duplicates of everything. And these are the pins. I've got 4 left in here. Head pins. I got these on Amazon, I think. Most of the time they're in kind of with the jewelry making stuff, the beads and things like that. But these are nice and long. And they're very sturdy. They don't bend. They're not the ones that you make earrings out of and you want to bend them all out of shape, okay? I'll see if I can find them again and I'll add them to the link on my blog just so you can see them. And so what we are going to do is, again, we're going to use the same glue. I'm just going to wipe off the tip here because it got a little yucky. And I like to add a pile of glue to the middle. Then I'm going to stick the head pin in there, and I'm putting the head right inside the flower. And then I'm adding the other side of the flower. And now you need to sit here and do absolutely nothing for 10 minutes while this glues together and starts to dry. Okay, hopefully that's dry enough to progress a little bit. You don't want it completely dry because we need to open this up a little tiny bit. We're going to add a little bit of glue inside there, and we're going to add a leaf. And because we didn't stitch the leaves, they're good on both sides. And we're going to come over here and we're going to do exactly the same thing on this side. Okay, so sticking that in there, kind of lining it up the way you want it to kind of hang out. And again, hold on to that for a couple of minutes until the glue starts to set. So Fergus's coat is not quite dry yet, but I'm going to move on. And this was the reason why I did the gluing of the hat ahead of time. And just a couple of things about that. When you add them on, then what you can do is just stick your fingers on either side and hold it in place for, maybe a minute, just so that the glue seeps into the hat felt and everything will stick together. I glued this about a half an hour ago and it's perfect. So what we're going to do is we are going to put this on top of Fergus. Oh, doesn't he look handsome? Oh, my goodness. Let me just tip him. Okay, so here's Fergus, and here's his little hat. And, of course, he's going to look way better when we get his little coat on. But for now, and here's the back. Okay, lots of pretty decorations. For now, so that his hat doesn't fall off, we're going to take this and we are going to stab right through the hat, right into his body. And then just straighten him out a little bit here. I'm not sure I got it on there. Let's see. Let's tip him. Okay, because that's not falling off. So I must have stabbed him in the right place. I hate to tell you to stab Fergie, but hey. Okay, so now his hat stays in place. The other thing that is now is I can come back and I can look at his hat and I can say, where do I need a few more embellishments? And I've got a couple more that I can add on if I want to. When you look at the back of the hat, whoops, you've got a flower there, and two flowers here. So I'm thinking that I might add a flower here. And I'm going to have a leaf hang out over and a leaf kind of hang back here a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the pin out and I'm going to do this flat. It's going to be a lot easier to work on. Okay, so flower. Leaf. And leaf. Okay, I'm going to stick this back in here just so that I have a point of reference for where that, and see how far this sticks down. So it goes into Fergus just about an inch. Okay, so we got that there. I'm almost thinking that it might be kind of fun to have a little guy up here. I'm just looking at my colors of what I got left to play with. And the only color I have finished is this one. And it's going to be right beside this one. So I think I might make a different one. Anyway, let's put the hat back on, Fergus. Okay. You got to position him kind of where you want him. Make sure that his beard is tucked in nicely. And then you're going to slide this thing in, find the body, and push it down nice and deep. There you go. Okay, so I think the coat is pretty dry. We were lucky we didn't have any glue come through. So you're just going to take little Fergie here, and we're going to dress him. I'm going to get this coat up around him, even in the front, and closed up near the top. Just like that. Let me see. Oh, he's handsome. Oh, my goodness. Is handsome a good word for a gnome who has flowers all over him? I think so. Okay, so here you go. Here's the front of the coat with his hat. Okay, then I'm going to turn him around and look at the back of him. Isn't he going to be beautiful on my tiered tray? He's just gorgeous. So another thing you could do, you've got this little blue hanging out here, and depending on, I don't know, numerous things, how long your coat is, etc., there is an opportunity here, if you wanted to, that you could add a couple of little flowers down here on the inside of his body, if you wanted to. It just kind of adds a little element of color. Okay, I've got those in the wrong order, but you get the idea, right? And again, as I said, you also could consider this, which would be kind of fun. I think I might do that on the Day of the Dead one, so we can do a little comparison and see if we like him or not. Anyway, there he is, all finished. Okay, so next up, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of pictures of the different gnomes that I've made using the different embellishments. And there's also a link at the end of the video and underneath this in the comments for links over to the blog where you can get details on how to get all of these dies. Let's have a quick discussion about buttons. Spellbinders has been kind enough to bring in some buttons for me because I really like using these and they look great in the center of the flowers. And I'm just going to grab a flower and I'm going to show you. Okay, let me zoom in again. We'll move this all over so that you get up close and personal with this. Okay, with this size. It makes an adorable center. And of course, there's a few different colors. And then for these little guys, there's little baby ones. See if I can get one out of here without spilling the whole package. Here we go. So this is a nice alternative if you want a little bit more dimension to your flowers, or if you don't want to do all the die cutting, and you can glue them on there or you can stitch them on there. It's entirely up to you. And there is a nice selection of a few different colors, nice for Easter, for Halloween, for Easter, summer. Some of these colors, and I also think that they're bringing in this one as well. I'm not exactly sure of all the colors of buttons that they're bringing in, so go have a look on their website because these are really cute and they're a nice, fun addition.